Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling here, and got a special treat for you guys today. We're going to give you probably the most comprehensive buzzbait video seminar that you've ever seen on YouTube before. I've got my buzzbait box out here and we're going to go through everything on it. I'm going to talk about different styles, different types, different sizes, different situations, how to set up buzzbaits, trailer hooks, the tackle to throw it on, everything like that. So I think by the time you come out of this video, you're going to be a buzzbait expert and catch some good ones on it. So real quick, guys, in exchange for all this 50 years of info I'm throwing your way here, I'd just like to invite everybody to please check out all the links that I put in the description of this video. Those links are different ways that you can help support the channel, like through the virtual lessons, lake map breakdowns, different type of bait works and block of old school jig links. And also please check out our View Products tab. You'll see a little thing that says View Products at the bottom of the screen when the video starts. And that's 30 products I put in there every day, different fishing products. And if you buy one of the products on that link there, the channel gets a 5% commission on that sale. So that's a good way to support the content here. Much appreciated for the listening to the plugs there. Okay guys, let's get into this here. Buzzbaits, man, they've been around forever. I remember first buzzbait I ever saw was hanging up down at Rod and Reel Resort down at Table Rock Lake back in 1973. I saw they had a cardboard display of these things that said lunker lure on there, and it was just the lunker lure. It was just like I'll pick one out here. It looked almost identical to the modern day lunker lure like this, except it had a bucktail skirt on it and a flat head. And I looked at that thing and I didn't even know what it was. I said, man, that thing's the ugliest bait. That's never going to catch a fish. I didn't realize they were a topwater lure, but that's the first time I saw them. And then I remember about Rick Clunn won a tournament back in the mid-70s on a buzzbait. I think it was at Cordell Hole Lake, a Bassmaster Invitational. And they've been catching fish forever. And I've caught so many good fish on a buzzbait. Lots of tournaments get one on them. So we're going to go over everything in detail here. Okay, what I'm going to do, guys, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through different buzzbait categories and sort of explain to you the situations they work best, and then just get into a diversity of different information on this. So first thing I want to do is I want to talk about buzzbait size. There's three primary sizes that I use, and probably I use two sizes most of the time. You've got a big buzzbait. This is the Megabass Jamaican Boa. I'll put all the links in the description too. This is a large buzzbait. This is like a 3/4 ounce buzzbait with a very large blade on it. And then you have them all the way down to a little 1/8 ounce buzzer here. This is just an 1/8 ounce buzzer, and you can see the size difference on the blade there. Just a huge difference in the profile of the bait. Hold them up like this, you can see the difference in them. And at certain situations, one is going to work a lot better than others, but regardless, even if you're throwing a little small buzzer like an 1/8 ounce buzzer, you're still after big fish. These will catch giant fish on them. It's not necessarily the being bigger or smaller, it's about using them in the right situation. So first of all, when do you want the big buzzbait? When do you want to throw the large, clacking, loud, big bladed buzzbait? For me, guys, this is the bait that I throw in the late pre-spawn and also some in the late fall time of the year. Those are the two times that they absolutely work the best. So when that water temperature starts to get, say, in that upper 50s range, mid to upper 50s, and I get maybe some warm type of a day where you got a southerly airflow, maybe a front's coming in, maybe you got some cloud cover, say one of those early April days where it's just unseasonably warm, that's when you pull out the big buzzbait and fish it really slow in shallow water, like in the back of coves and that type of stuff. That's a really good way to catch big fish. And also, it seems like after the spawn and in through the summer, I don't catch many fish on a big one, but they fire up and they start working again in late fall, like when that water temperature starts falling down into the 50s. Like once it starts to get into the 50s, usually sometime October, November, early December, depending upon what part of the country you're in, that's when another time that they hit the big buzzbait, and that's when a lot of those fish are up, excuse me, fish really shallow, feeding on big gizzard shad that are right up on the bank, is another window where the big one works. Now the other one, and this the big one is I use it a lot during those conditions. Now, the next one, guys, is like the 3/8 ounce model. Now, this is probably the most common buzzbait size that you can use. Guys, I hardly ever use a 3/8 ounce buzzbait. It's like, for me, it's all about big or small, one of the two. It's like there's not much in between with it. Now, some of the times that I will use the, you know, like the mid-size buzzbait, like the 3/8 ounce, and you can see the blade size is it's a little bit bigger, but it's still quite a bit, I mean, a little bit smaller, but it's still quite a bit smaller than the big one. This is sort of like fills the gap between spring and fall. And I'm going to get to the little one here in a second here, but I would use this 3/8 ounce in a typical post-spawn situation. Say you're fishing in May and you've got a lake that's got some shallow grass around it, shallow weeds, lily pads, something like that. A 3/8 ounce buzzbait can be pretty good, especially in low light conditions early or late in the day. But that May is about the only time of year I throw a 3/8 ounce. I don't throw it hardly any other time. So I will go from fishing like March into April up until when that water temperature starts to get about 60 and those fish start spawning with the big buzzer. Then after the post spawn for about a month, I'll go to the 3/8 ounce. And then after that is when I go to my favorite size, and that is the little 1/8 ounce buzzer, guys. The little 1/8 ounce, guys, this is freaking deadly. If you've never thrown an 1/8 ounce buzzbait, I'm telling you right now, it's something you want to try. From about June until October, early October, this is pretty much all I fish when I'm fishing a buzzbait. And during that time frame, there's two different types of situations that works good. One is early and late in the day. Say, for example, I get out there right around daybreak and I'm fishing around riprap areas, shallow rock, points, that type of stuff. Little buzzbait works good. Or same thing in the evening. And then other times, if there's a heavy bluegill spawn going on a lake, like a heavy perch spawn, I'll also throw that little buzzbait back in those areas where I see the bedding bluegill that can work pretty good. So that's sort of a general overview of size on there. Now, another time that a big buzzbait will work, the big bladed buzzbait will work in different type of conditions, is if you got a significant chop on the water. So say if you've got a super windy day or a day that's like rainy and cloudy, super low light conditions, that is the situation where you can catch fish on the big buzzbait, even all from spring, summer, and fall all the way through there. But those days are rare. It's really rare when you get one of those days where it's blowing 20 and it's raining and cloudy. But when that does come up, this is the big one's a good one to throw. Okay, let's get a little bit about blade color now. There's three primary blade colors that I fish in buzzbait. One is just like just a metal or like a silver type blade. The next is the black blade, and then there's a gold blade. So you got these are the only three blade colors that I fish. Now, a lot of this I let not only the sky conditions, but I let the time of year dictate that. Now, this is something I can't really intellectualize why it is, but it's just something I've seen from my experience. I like a gold blade, guys, in the fall time of the year. When October, November, early December rolls around, this is all I'm throwing is a gold blade. I catch so many more bass on a gold blade in the fall time of the year than I will black or silver or anything like that. I don't know what it is. I've experimented with different colors. This is by far my number one color, regardless of the sky conditions. So it's good in the fall time of the year. My workhorse for the rest of the year, like especially early in the year, is the black one. Guys, if I'm fishing a buzzbait early in the year when the water temperature's in the 50s, I don't have anything else on besides black. That's the only color that I have black on. A black buzzbait will work really good when that water is right on the marginal end of being too cold for a topwater. So once that water temperature starts either getting up or falling into the low 50s, specifically when it's coming up in the low 50s in the pre-spawn, I'm always using a black buzzbait with the black skirt on there. You can't beat that for that. And also, again, on those real cloudy, rainy, nasty days, I'll go to black. Now, the silver blade is one that I use the absolute least. The only time, guys, that I have really done good on a silver blade is during a shad spawn. And the shad spawns most of the time happen in May and June in most parts of the lake. So if you're noticing that you're in the middle of a shad spawn or a herring spawn, the silver blade can outperform the black or the gold by far. But other than that, I don't catch many fish on that. Excuse me, guys. Okay, let's go into skirts a little bit. Trailers. To give you guys one piece of advice, sort of like against the grain a little bit, I do not like a towed trailer. Just, you know, the Zoom horny toad, I know a lot of guys catch fish on it. Guys, I do not like this. I do not catch near the bass on a buzzbait off a towed trailer as I do a skirt. Now, I'm not sure what it is. I think my opinion personally is a towed trailer like this is sort of like braid to fluorocarbon or any type of a trend that people pick up on and start using. I think a lot of it is they see other anglers using it, they see pros using it, and then they think they got to use it, so that's what they do. So most people use a towed trailer. In my opinion, guys, take your towed trailers off and don't use them. I catch so many more fish by going with the straight skirt on there. This is like the mainstay that I do. And one thing that I do, guys, is I tie my own skirts. I mean, you guys have seen this. Let me get my box here. This is another thing that I would recommend. This is my skirt tying box. This is all skirt colors, different colors that you have in there. And guys, I can completely match the skirt color to any condition that I want. I can match it exactly to what I think the forage of the fish is, to the sunlight conditions, to the water clarity, anything about that. If I happen to catch a bluegill and I notice the color of the bluegill, I can tie a skirt up. You know, if I snag a shad and I notice the hue or the tint of a shad, I can put it up exactly like that. Skirts are, in my opinion, by far the best, you know, material to use on a buzzbait. And also, guys, one of the things about that is when you're tying your skirt. Now here, this is the Megabass Jamaican Boa. This is the skirt that comes with it. It's a hand-tied skirt, and you can see it's got these little trailers off of it. Make sure that you tie your skirt a little bit long, because we'll get into why as far as with the trailer hook being hidden here in a second, but try to tie them a little bit long like that. And color variations, guys, I keep it pretty simple in buzzbait skirt colors. I've got 3 or 4 different colors. You can't go wrong with black on black. I mean, if I'm using a black, you know, blade, I'm using a black skirt with that. Most of the time, if I'm fishing in the really warm weather, I'm using some type of a shad pattern skirt like this, either a white or some type of a pearlescent or shaddy. Works really good, and especially it works good if those fish are super, super shallow, or if it's bright and sunny out, you got sort of bright, you know, bluebird type days, the white or pearl work really good. And I'm usually, another thing about the white guys, when I'm using the little 1/8 ounce buzzer, I'm almost always using a shad pattern skirt on it. It sort of resembles like a little shad's shallow. And guys, this is one of the secrets I'll give you here that I don't talk about much. The chartreuse skirt is the deal in the fall time of the year. I pair it up with a gold blade chartreuse skirt. Again, I'm not sure what the deal is, but this combination, the bass just gobble it up, especially if you get a low light day. One of my, probably, well, not one of them, but probably the best days I've ever had on a buzzbait, you know, throughout the last 40 years fishing, is if you get, say, a November or December day, and you get one of those days where there's a cold front coming in, and maybe a cold front is on the way through and passing. Temperature starts dropping, it starts raining, starts getting a little bit windy out there. Guys, you put your chartreuse skirt on with a gold blade, and they will eat it big time with that. It really works good. Okay, let's talk a little bit about trailer hooks here. I actually did a video for my other channel, The Fishing Teacher, on this today. I'm going to pass it along to you guys here. One of the things that you will notice with a buzzbait or spinnerbait, like I said in that video, is you will notice a reduction in the strikes that you get if you put a trailer hook on. If you put a trailer hook on there, even though that doesn't look like much in there, I don't know what it is about it, guys, but your strikes will go down. Let's say, for example, say there's 2 people fishing side by side in the same boat, casting at the same stuff, theoretically. You put one person on with a buzzbait without a trailer hook, and let's say if they get 10 fish during the day, if you put somebody else right next to them throwing the exact same bait with a trailer hook, they're going to catch 5 or 6 fish. a trailer hook will take the amount of bites away that you get because of the visual deterrent on there. Now the downside or the upside to that is that unless they're eating it, a lot of times they'll come up and hit it short and not get it. So that's why you use the trailer hook, is to get those short biters out there. So it's sort of like a trade-off. It's like you're not going to get as many bites, but you may hook more of the fish that bite the thing with the trailer hook. So here's my general rule of thumb on that, is if I'm fishing the buzzbait really slow, and I fish the buzzbait slow early and late in the year when that water temperature is more in the mid 50s, excuse me guys, little allergies here getting over. When that water temperature is in the low to mid 50s, I don't hardly ever use a trailer hook, because I'm just like blip, 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 just reeling it real slow, and they usually come up and get it pretty good. But if I'm moving a buzzer through the water at a fairly good rate, that's a lot of times where I'll use the trailer hook out there. And sometimes they just hit it short. There's days out there where, for whatever reason, it could be something with the sunlight conditions, they just slap at it. They don't hit it, and that's another time that you want to use the trailer hook. But if you do use a trailer hook, here's some tips and advice I'll give you. Number one is go small. This is the biggest trailer hook that I have right here, guys. This is a 1/0 hook. It's a 1/0 trailer hook. You don't want a big honking trailer hook on there. If you put like a number 3, 4, or 5 trailer hook on there, the thing is going to be as big as your main hook, and it's going to drastically reduce your strike. So go with a little bitty trailer hook for just to catching those little nippers. If you're fishing open water, turn it upside down to where the hook is hanging upside down, because when those fish come up out off the bottom, a lot of times they'll nip it from below, and you'll get them a lot more than if they have to come completely over the top of the bait or get it from behind there. So let that dictate. Now, another thing you want on this trailer hook, guys, is you want this trailer hook swinging freely. A lot of guys put like plastic tubing on there, and it locks the thing stiff like that. Guys, you don't want that. Throw away every one of that piece of tubing that you got, because if you do have a bass hooked by that trailer hook, you want that flexibility like that, so they don't have leverage on the bait. So the way you do that is get you a milk jug or a gallon water jug. This is like, I've cut this off of a gallon water jug here, and cut you out a little square off of it, just like that. And then take it and put your square over the point of your main hook. It's going to be on there like that. And then take your scissors and just trim around all 4 edges like that. This way you got the trailer hook on there that's going to swing freely, and this thing is never coming off. It's going to stay on there really good. So that's the setup that I use with that. Okay, now finally, we'll talk about equipment, and we'll talk about, you know, areas and stuff a little bit. The equipment that you want to throw a buzzbait on, guys, this is probably the only situation besides maybe a frog that I throw exclusively braid with. I throw braid all the time on a on a buzzbait. If I'm fishing the little 1/8 ounce model, guys, I fish it on a spinning rod, because you cannot cast this thing near as accurately with the bait casting rod because it's so light. So I'll put like 20-pound test Seaguar Smackdown braided line on a like a Megabass, the little bit stiffer one, the Megabass the Megabass Shaky Head Special, which is sort of more of a medium heavy action 7-foot spinning rod. And you can cast the thing a mile with a 20-pound test line. You can horse them in. You don't have any stretch on that. Most people don't fish a buzzer on a spinning rod, guys, but on the little guy like this, use that 20-30-pound test braided line, and you won't have any problem with it. If I'm fishing the heavier buzzers like this, I'm usually using some type of a longer 7.5-foot rod. I prefer the Megabass Launcher, which is a 7-foot 11 rod it's got a pretty good parabolic tip on it, and I pair that up with 40-pound test Seaguar Smackdown line. I don't use anything over 40, because if you use over 40, it's too thick. It hinders your casting ability. It doesn't cast as far. But the combination of that parabolic bend on that long rod and the heavy 3/4 ounce buzzer and the braided line on there, I just don't hardly ever miss any fish with that. I mean, the parabolic bend is forgiving enough where, you know, it allows that fish to take that buzzer a little bit more. So That's the two rod and reel setups I use with that. And finally, guys, let's talk a little bit about areas to fish buzzbaits in. Areas is a lot of the areas that you fish in there is going to be dependent upon the type of lake you're fishing, the available structure, water clarity, water temperature, that type of stuff, time of year. Normally, when I start fishing a buzzbait, when the water temperature is in the 50s up until about 60 degrees, I'm fishing it back where I think the fish are going to spawn or they're getting really close to spawning. So I'll try to concentrate like on the back 2/3 part of the flouter coves, just anywhere I think those fish are getting ready to move up into spawn, because a lot of times those bigger females, they will move up before the males, checking areas out for beds. And that's one of the first ways I catch big ones is on a buzzbait super shallow. So stay on the flat areas, shallow areas up until it gets, right around 60 degrees. After it gets 60 degrees, and like during the post spawn, for me, it's all about rock. If I can find, especially riprap is outstanding to fish a buzzbait on during the post spawn. I think a lot of reasons why is because you have a lot of shad that spawn around riprap. So if you got any riprap or rocky banks, that's going to be really good, in the post spawn. Early summer is going to be good with that. Also around the edge of docks, a lot of times shad will spawn on docks, and they'll spawn right around the floats on all sides of them. So fishing that buzzbait around shallow docks can be really good. Now the summertime of the year, when you're talking about when the water is really maxed out at its hottest, dang, talking this long gets my throat dry. When you're talking about catching fish during the hottest time of the year, it's all about the shade. And the shade is critical, and the shade is actually the cover that you fish. So it's not necessarily that the bank structure is that important, it's having the overhanging shade. The shade can be from a dock, it can be from a tree, it can be from an overhanging tree, it can be from the angle of a bank being set up at a certain way based upon the sun angle. But just get in there in those areas that wherever you fish that you think the fish are in the summer. It could be a main lake point, it could be a bluff bank, it could be a lily pad field, it could be a grass edge, whatever's in your lake, and just fish the shade all summer long. Now, once the water temperature starts cooling down in the fall time of the year, that's when they go back more to rock, and not necessarily rock that's super shallow. The fall time of the year, guys, I concentrate on main lake rock, main lake riprap, main lake rocky banks, main lake rocky points. If I've got riprap between boat docks, that's golden in the fall time of the year. But when that water starts dropping down into the 50s in the fall, just spend all your time back on rock like you did in the post spawn. So anyway, guys, that's just sort of a little foundational seminar for buzzbaits for you guys. You can put your own personal tweaks on it. This is what's worked for me. I mean, I've caught a lot of good fish on a buzzbait, and probably, I'm going to guess, 90% of the big fish I've caught on a buzzbait, and when I'm talking big, I'm talking like over 4 or 5 pounds, have either come in March or November and December, either early in the year or almost early in the year before people start throwing it, and late in the year after people have put it away. So those big ones, they'll bite early in the year and late in the year better than anything from what I figured out. So anyway, I hope it helps, guys. We'll talk later.